you stay at home and do nothing, and you go to work 9 to 5, you never take any risks, you never do anything out of the ordinary, you never question anybody. And at the end of your 4 score and 10, you get to your end point and you go, well, it was pretty dull, wasn't it?
Welcome, welcome. It's Gull Khan here, your money mindset expert. And today I have something really, really special for you. I'm speaking to an amazing trader. And being a trader myself, I'm quite excited to be speaking to him. Someone called Tate, all the way on the other side of the world in Australia. And he will be talking to us about how he went from being whatever he's doing before to being a professional trader right now. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning. So tell us, how are you doing? It must be evening for you at your end, right?
It is. It's about, what do we got? 8:30.
And it's about 11:30 for us. Wonders of technology. So, Chris, tell us, let's get into this. Now, tell us, Chris, what is your background? So, what were you doing before trading?
Well, it's one of those stories where when you look back at it, it seems linear and sensible and organised and all the rest.
Yeah.
But I think that's just the way we arrange our internal narratives. They're just the little stories we tell ourselves. I originally started my professional career as an academic. My background is the study of the human immune system.
Wow.
So I'm a very, very, very long way away from where I started. But I present myself as the archetype that there is actually no prerequisite, there is no background requirement to be involved in markets, to be successful, to really end up wherever you want to be.
Mm.
There is no set roadmap. I know people say that, to be X, you need to do ABC first.
Mm.
And that they present this sort of roadmap to you. But my experience and observation of people and myself is that the roadmap is really just a very loose, sort of fluid thing that you follow.
Okay, so you come from that was your background. So how long ago did you actually start trading? How did you get involved, and how did you get started?
Oh, this is going to make me sound ancient. I was very big last century.
So how long have you been trading then?
What happened was I was involved in academia. And look, the academic system here in Australia is probably much like it is in the UK.
Mm.
It's a collection of scrambling for funding, politics.
Yes. A lot of political agenda, yes.
And all that paperwork and gibberish that goes along with it.
Yes.
And I had I'm not one... I believe that lives have pivot moments.
Yeah.
That they shift on, that a door opens and it's your choice. You either walk through the door or you don't. You take the life lesson for what it is and accept it, or you ignore it.
Yeah.
Now, I was walking across the quadrangle at my university and I banged into a friend of mine who I'd actually been in high school with and did first year with. And I said, where the hell have you been?
Mm.
Like, it's been years. And he said, look, I dropped out after first year. It just wasn't for me. Mm. I said, what'd you do? And he said, well, I went and did economics. And I went, oh, God, that must have been dull.
Mm.
So what are you doing now? And he said, look, I've just gotten back from a year in New York and I'm about to go off to London for a year.
Mm.
And I'm not very socially adept. So I said, so how much do they pay you for this?
Mm.
He told me. And it was about 4 to 5 times what I was getting as an academic.
Yeah,
and
I'm not surprised.
I had this arrogant epiphany that said to myself was, bloody hell, I was smarter than you at school and smarter than you at university. Why am I not making 5 times as much as I am?
Mm.
And at the time, coincidentally, and it's purely coincidentally,
mm-hmm.
it was part of the early 1980s boom in the stock market here
right.
and everywhere else in the world. And here in Australia, we were trying to pivot towards, or at the universities in particular, to a more commercial model through biotechnology.
Okay.
Pivotal moment was I ran into this old friend of mine who explained to me what he was doing and how much he was earning, which was a real shock to me. And I had a burgeoning interest in markets back then anyway, courtesy of my exposure to these new and emerging biotech companies that unis were trying to get into. So I was involved in the IPO of several of them, the listing of them, and I thought, well, this is an interesting thing. And it's also far more profitable than what I'm doing. And it doesn't seem to involve any of the paperwork and the politics and the lack of funds. Why don't I have a crack at this? And I did a series of door knocks around stockbroking firms because I'd become an investor myself.
Okay.
And I thought, well, surely if anyone can teach me about investing, it's stockbrokers. That's mistake number one. Because what stockbrokers know about trading could be written on a gnat's bum with a 6-inch nail. They have very, very little understanding of markets. And this was brought home to me by the fact that when I turned up, I managed to talk my way into a broking firm simply because here in Australia, they were releasing derivatives. At the time, they were just starting to appear. And derivatives are quantitative. They require you to solve what is effectively fifth and sixth form maths. It's not terribly difficult. But they couldn't do it, but I could. And they thought that was black magic.
Oh,
it's not really. And I was quickly disavowed of my understanding that stockbrokers knew anything about trading, because sitting opposite me was a bloke who 2 weeks beforehand had been selling carpets. And the guy beside me 2 weeks before that had been selling shoes.
Okay.
So that was their sum total of experience. The industry has attempted to clean itself up a little bit here in Australia over the past 30 years or so. But it was very much that I'm now in a new place. What can I get from this new place? What can I learn? Because again, it sort of comes back to that sort of hackneyed statement that people throw around, but I don't think they understand, is that it's very rare that people make seriously bad calls in their lives. And even when you do, there is something to be learned from that. And there were things to be learned from broking. There were skills that I picked up, and it also gave me free rein to experiment. It gave me access to trading floors, because we still had those here in Australia at the time. We were just transitioning to electronic trading. It gave me access to operators. It gave me access to international markets, allowed me to specialise in derivatives and get paid to do so. And so a single happenstance moment and a growing sense of discomfort caused me to be even more uncomfortable in a completely unfamiliar environment, but to actually make something of it and to take whatever lessons there were. And at times broking was very, very good to me, and it enabled me to go out on my own several years after that.
Okay. So you're working with a company before. So when did you leave and venture on your own, or are you still working with a company?
No, I've been through several stages of what I would call semi-retirement. But I soon found out, I suppose much to my annoyance, that retirement's a middle-class concept, and it's not something that active people do.
No.
And so I retired in my very early 30s, came back a few years later, started a formal trading business, listed a few entities, and then thought about retiring again, until my current business partner just tapped me on the shoulder and said, "You're really bored, aren't you?" And I went, "Well, yeah, I am, but I quite like being bored. It's a pleasant state of mind." And so we started this entity called the Trading Game, because we both treat trading as a game. Okay. It's one of the mistakes I made was that initially when I started trading I thought the markets were a thing to be solved, that there was an external problem, something I had to fix.
Right.
The problem's internal. The problem is always internal.
Yes.
And once I got over that notion of fixing or solving the markets, it became an easier process. because the focus then shifts, and the focus shifts internally, and you realise that the problem to be solved is you. And the problem to be solved in all traders, all investors, is generally you. Most people have reasonable trading systems, they have reasonable trading ideas, but the way they apply them and the mindset they bring to them is completely askew, because people have the wrong ideas about money. They've got the wrong money scripts that they might have inherited from parents. They might be first-generation migrants. I'm a son of a first-generation migrant. My father's originally from Yorkshire, can't speak a word of English. And the view that, and it's undoubtedly the same everywhere in the world for children of first-generation migrants, the way you succeed is you go to school,
you study,
you get a good education, you get a good job, you work at the good job for 40 years, and they give you a gold watch. And for that, you
peanuts for retirement, yes.
Basically, and you should be grateful that you didn't have to go down pit when you were 12.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's a mindset people, they don't realise how insidious it is. They don't realise how ingrained it has become.
Yeah.
And so it makes it very, very difficult for them to make any transitional steps to move away from that. Because in doing so, in part, they're shattering their identity. And they're shattering their identity that was given to them by their family.
Yep, of course, yes.
That is immensely important to people. But what people don't realise is, I think, in many ways, they have to break themselves to start again.
I so agree,
and remold themselves.
Yeah. So I'm going to stop you there for a moment. I love what you just said. I love everything you just said, because it exactly is, you literally reinforced the teaching that I almost talking about. It's just, you have to let go of your old identity before you can move forward with it, and achieve your goals. But this is going to bring home, because I'm the first generation child of a migrant, you can say, because my parents came over from Pakistan. And I'm born here, but my children are second generation, but I'm first, and I had the same ideology: go to school, get a really good education, graft, and and I became a lawyer. But I understand, but I had to let go of my legal professional identity before I could do anything else, because while I held on to my being a lawyer and introduced myself as a lawyer, I couldn't do anything else. So how did you let go of, because you study really hard, and especially if you become an academic, you have to be super smart. How do you let go of, I know so much and I'm so clever, but how do you let go of that aspect of yourself and adopt a new identity? How do you change your mindset? Or how did you change your mindset?
Yeah, that's a very powerful question. And it's one that is in some ways difficult to answer. But I think in part of my advantage that I've always had is that I grew up surrounded by an Asian culture. I've been heavily involved in martial arts since I was 12.
Right.
And I adopted their value set. But the Japanese have several very, very interesting concepts that don't translate very well to the Western mind. They have one called kintsugi, and kintsugi is this notion you break something and then refashion it with gold. And the new entity that shows the lines of fracture and break is regarded as being more beautiful than the original unbroken item.
Yeah, I've seen that before, yeah.
The unbroken item is viewed as flawed because it has no flaws. Its lack of flaws means that it has no experience. It's not been reborn. It is not in any way gone through a period of translation and transition.
Yeah.
And so letting go of things is not that much of a problem for me. There are still elements of academia and my previous profession I miss. And I do often say to people, and it's not really always in jest, that if somebody said to me, here's the same amount of money you earn now and also the lifestyle you enjoy, but you can go off and solve your little problems, I'd go, well, that's a pretty good deal, actually. But a lot of it hasn't been lost because in many ways, the intellectual rigour you brought to a previous profession carries with you.
Of course.
Because we still have to do those professional things, and you would find that as well.
Yeah.
That the intellectual rigour and mindset and theoretical framework you got from studying the law is something you apply subconsciously, probably without even realising it. That when you are presented with situations, problems, interactions, the ingrained training is still there.
Yeah,
and so those skills haven't been lost. They've just been moulded
and used
to be applied to a different arena.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that, for sure. I think there's nothing's ever lost, and the skills you learn from academia or as one professional training, you can actually apply it to others. So one of my major, I think one of my superpowers, I call it my superpower, is the ability to speak about money to different people with different ability, intellectual ability. I can speak to someone, someone who's not familiar with the law of attraction, or someone who's not familiar with the idea of energy, and then at the same time I can speak to someone who's really into spiritual energies and quantum physics and so forth, and discuss really complex concepts with them. But then this comes from my legal training. I'm trained to be a barrister. I'm supposed to be able to speak to my layman clients, as well as solicitors, as well as judges, and academia at the same time. So this is the training, especially, and also the fact that I'm a professional speaker, that helps in my current job. So your skills are never lost. The skills are always applicable, and they're more moldable, they said, to other professions. And the mindset that you develop from one is actually that's an asset that you can apply regardless of whichever profession you decide to go into. One of my major ones is, because I'm dyslexic, I had developed this major, this ability to this work ethics, which is very, now when I was younger, I thought everyone did this, but now when I grow up, and now that I can look back around me, it's not that common to have that kind of work ethics. My children don't have that, and I'm trying to get them to understand, but they don't. And I naturally had that, where I just worked. I mean, I may not have the talent, I may not have the ability, and when I was growing up, I wasn't able to read, so I didn't have the ability to read, but you just can't beat me in terms of effort. I would just go on and on and on and on and on. Eventually, I always surpassed my peers because of the work ethics. And this is exactly what I think is coming from you, that to become an academic, you had to have that, the work ethic, the intellectual ability. And when you changed focus from academia to trading, those skills came with you, and they were your assets and became your superpowers, and that allowed you to probably prosper and get a lot further in the trading arena, rather than letting hinder you think I'm smart and I'm super smart. Because a lot of people, I think the problem is in academia and people who are super smart, because this, I think, issue that happened with me is, when you think you're smart, then you don't, I think you become complacent, I think, at times. Whereas if you are always constantly learning, and that allows you to absorb more and become aware of everything that you don't know, because a lot of the things you don't know what you don't know.
Yes, and I think the thing you've touched on there is this powerful dichotomy between sort of a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
Exactly.
But one of the things I noticed, particularly with teaching very, very bright students, was that many of them had a fixed mindset.
Yeah.
And their intellectual horsepower would only get them so far, and then they'd stop. And they'd stop because they couldn't believe that they could go any further. They felt they were locked and constrained by their ability, not realising that was a transient barrier. If they just adopted a different mindset and said, yes, this is hard, and I know how to work. It's not coming easy anymore, but I can still do it.
Yeah.
Many would just hit the wall and go, I've probably hit my intellectual limit. When in actual fact they hadn't. They hit their psychological and emotional limit. And that was the only limiter that was put on them. And it was very, very distressing to see that they couldn't get beyond that. And many would drop out. Many would change streams to something they perceived to be easier, which I didn't think was necessary, because all things at university are hard at one time or another. Mm-hmm. And so it was that people, I find, had this remarkable ability to lift their own handbrake and to act as an anchor for themselves. And it seems humans have this fear of success. And I understand quite naturally the fear of letting go, because you're taking a step into the unknown. And many people struggle with that with trading, because trading is unknown.
Yeah.
You don't know what tomorrow brings. Every decision is made to the limitations of a few things: your intellectual ability, the quality of the information you possess, and time. None are infinite, so therefore no decision is ever certain. Every decision has uncertainty in it, but it is the uncertainty that brings that capacity to either grow, prosper, move forward, be something else.
Yeah.
Because it's people often say to me, "Can you give me a riskless trade?" Yes, I can. It's called putting the money in the bank. You get nothing, but you deserve nothing, because there is no uncertainty.
Yeah.
Can you give me a riskless life? Yes, I can. You stay at home and do nothing, and you go to work 9 to 5. You never take any risks. You never do anything out of the ordinary. You never question anybody. And at the end of your, 4-10, you get to your end point and you go, well, it was pretty dull, wasn't it? And it's dull because you sought the riskless way. If you sought a way that made you uncomfortable, and you found a way within yourself to become comfortable with the discomfort, to be comfortable with being off kilter and out of balance at times, then you'd probably find that your life would be more than you thought it would be. There will be times when it's less than you thought it would be, because you go, oh crap, I got that wrong. But that's just part of the equation. You can't be successful in anything, be it relationships, sport, business, science, anything, without risk. It's just the way the world is.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that. I think this idea that you can, I always say this, most people tiptoe through life to arrive safely at death. I mean, that's pretty much what they do. And this is exactly the analogy that you've just given. Most people don't want to, I remember, because I talk about trading a lot, and I talk about different aspects of it. And I'm a beginner, so I'm not a newbie, complete newbie when it comes to trading. But I talk about it quite a bit because I'm learning, and I have lost money, as most initial traders do. But I have no qualms about it, because I know I haven't lost it. It's been part of my learning curve. So it's gone into my education. The things I've learned from those losses, I would probably never have gained. And it's better to lose the 20 grand now rather than the 200 in the future. So that's my mindset around it. But a lot of people have this, but it can go up and can go, and what if I lose it? And I've been talking about Forex trading in particular, and I've mentioned, they're like, but how much money can I lose? Well, if you're trading if you keep the margins, if you're risking 2 to 4%, that's what you're risking. But then you can risk that much to gain, 5 to 10%, on average, if that's what you're aiming for. But there are risks involved. It's not, you can't have gains without risks. And a lot of people in life, I think maybe this is the way we've been brought up, or the mindset is, let's not risk. Let's just go and be safe in everything, in relationships, in the kind of careers we have, in the kind of friends we have, in the kind of things we do, and everything is like, play safe, play safe, play safe. I'm really, seems to be a theme that's going through the average Joe blog's mind, isn't it?
Yeah. I think what happens is that there's a few things that constrain people. The first is humans come pre-packaged with a set of software, pieces of evolutionary psychology. And they served us very, 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 very well when we were wandering around the African savannah carrying a stick. But they're so ingrained as behaviours, we still hold on to them. And I see this in traders. Trading is a very, very simple profession. Now, I don't say it's easy. I say it's simple.
Let's clarify that. I mean, as a trader myself, the strategies and the rules of trading are very, very simple. Yet, becoming a profitable trader is not easy. It's actually hard. So there's a distinction between the two.
It's immensely difficult. And there are two rules. Cut losses, let profits run. But people struggle with those. despite the fact that they're not hard and fast rules, they're universal.
Yeah.
There is no way to succeed without understanding those rules.
Yeah.
But what do people do? They let their losses run and they cut their profits short. Well, there's a whole host of psychological reasons as to why they do that. But generally, if you look back far enough, that's found within our evolutionary psychology. Consider this. You're one of our ancestors wandering across the African plain. You come across something that's freshly killed. What's your first response? What killed it? Because remember, you're 5 foot tall, skinny, and everything can kill you.
Yeah.
So what do? You grab as much as you can and run away. Because you can't go broke taking a profit. That's exactly how people go broke. Because they have with that the counterpart. And the counterpart to that is, imagine you've come across this fresh kill again, you're grabbing as much as you can, and the thing that killed it comes back.
Yeah.
You can't outrun it. What do? You go for broke. You've just let your losses run. We have these foundational cornerstones to our psychology that are very difficult for people to break. And it is this issue in that trading is simple, but not easy. And it's not easy because we come to trading as fully formed humans with ideas, beliefs, preconceptions about money, how money works, what our relationship to money is. But it's also, in part, I think, a deeper problem in that people have a preconception about how much they are worth.
Yeah.
And without realising it, they do apply a subconscious value to that. So when they see a trade get to a certain value, they will kill it because they believe that's all they're worth.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. 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 Chris, we have to have you on my Facebook Live too, because I think I love this. What you're saying is exactly what people need to hear. I talk about self-worth and a lot. So I always say your net worth is equivalent, is always going to be equal to your self-worth. It's always that round. So your self-worth determines your net worth, and people usually put the other way around, and they actually allow their net worth to determine their self-worth. But you hit the nail on the head, and this is the reason why. So if you are thinking that you are only, say for example, you're only a 100k person, when you've made a 100k profit that year, you would start self-sabotaging, and then you'll start taking profits early and whatever else. And you think, well, you have logical reasons to do that, but it's actually not logical. But you justify. So you always justify our actions with logic after, even though we take emotional actions. And what you just said was hit the nail on the head.
No, that's the thing. We always back through our rationalizations.
Yes, we
why
do.
have we done this? And as people, the best people to lie to us are ourselves.
Absolutely, yes.
We tell the most powerful and persuasive lies as to why we can't do something or why we should do something. And our rationalizations are perfect for us because they reflect everything about us, because we know everything about us. We know our weak spots. We know why we want to take the extra bit of chocolate. We know why we want to have the extra beer, why we don't want to let the trade run. And so we find all these reasons to convince ourselves why that is. And I've seen it so many times. I've seen traders on the verge of taking that next step where the account looks like it's going to go from what you would call, look, I won't say workmanlike, but an ordinary everyday account. Somebody who's starting, struggling, they've got a nest egg, and they built it up to something, and they're almost at the point of going, this year will be $1 million year. And all of a sudden it's $150,000 a year because they think they're worth $150,000.
Yes, absolutely.
We have a mentoree who's part of our mentor program, who before he came to us, he bought a particular stock for 5.5 cents. He sold it at 7.5 because he thought that's nearly 50%. That's far better than the bank. A year later, in an unbroken run, the stock was $10.
Wow.
He had several 100,000 of them. But because he thought he was only worth that amount, and he could not foresee a point where he was worth more, then he killed the trade. And it is And the unfortunate thing about those things is they are so debilitating psychologically, because what you've seen is all of a sudden a door to a potential future has opened, you've looked at it, said no, and it's slammed shut. And that door never opens again.
No.
Strangely enough, that's the unfortunate thing, is that particular door will never open again. It's a little bit like someone walking up to you and saying, look, I've come from a week in the future. These are the lottery numbers for the weekend. Here's your chance to win 50 or 100 million euro. Do you wish to take it? No. And then the weekend comes, those numbers come up, and that opportunity is gone forever. And it's gone forever because that person is so emotionally damaged by the experience that they don't want to put themselves in that situation where they're confronted by that ever again.
Yes.
And we act to minimise damage to our ego. As much as we can, we act in a very ego-defensive manner. We seek to preserve who we think we are. And that comes back to the question you posed at the beginning about letting go. If you let go of who you think you are, then there is a chance that you may become who you actually want to be, or who you imagine you want to be, or who you think you should be. But unless you let go and you undergo that process of, and look, I don't want to use the word deconstruction because that's got a bit of a, it's not quite right. But if you want to undergo that process of, I'll use the word erosion, where the old you is pressure washed away, and then you rebuild something else. But unless you're willing to take that chance to go, oh, let's have a crack. What could go wrong? Because if you come back to the statement, what could go wrong? Okay, I could lose some money. Okay, yes, that's good. But are you dead? Have you been harmed in any way? Has your family been harmed? Have your children been harmed? Well, no, I've lost a bit of money. There you go. Have another go. Have another crack and see how it works.
I love that. I love that. So thank you so much for sharing your amazing wisdom on trading. Can you tell us how do you support people? So do you have a coaching program or mentoring program? You mentioned mentoring. So how do you help people?
What we have is, I run in conjunction with my business partner, a company called The Trading Game. Our aim is to take people from even very beginners and turn them into professional traders, so that what they do is they develop their trading plan. So it's idiosyncratic. Okay. It's not ours, because that doesn't work. It's like me saying to you, Gull, right, I wear size 13 shoes. Here they are, knock yourself out. You'd be going, then not.
Trading is very subjective. You can make trading in day and night, left, right, centre, but it's very subjective, and it's not one glove. Is not everyone's different, so not one fit all. So I understand that completely. So do you have? Okay, go on.
And if we can get people to that stage where it's their plan, they trade every market over every time frame. We've had people go on to run hedge funds. We've had people whose dream was to follow the Formula One circuit around the world, and they've done that. People have done all sorts of things. And so you can find me at tradinggame.com.au. But we actually have a trading plan template that we get people to fill in that guides them through the process of generating a trading plan. Because without a trading plan, trading's random, you're guessing. You can find me on social media under Trading Game. You can find me on LinkedIn under my own name, all the usual social media suspects. But the easiest way to find me is through our website at tradinggame.com.au.
To let everybody know, we will have all of Chris's social media links and all the links, the URL to his website too, on the show notes, so you will be able to find them. But I was just asking him to share with us right now, so that when you're listening, you can have an idea. But you can go back and look at the show notes, and everything, all the links will be there for you present there, if you want to go and check out. And I think definitely you should. So do you have coaching? Do you have group coaching programs, or do you have individual programs? Or how do you help people?
We do them as a group. We have a group focus, but we also have an online focus. Everything we do is online. What's that enabled us to do is that we have mentorees in the UK, we have them in Europe, we have them scattered throughout Asia, throughout the US. And as you said before we started recording, miracles of technology. You're sitting in London, I'm sitting in Melbourne. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's something we could not have done. Even 10 years ago, it would have been a struggle.
Would have been a struggle. Yeah, it's very accessible now. Online's made it very accessible. My whole business is built online. I too have clients all over the world, which wouldn't be possible otherwise without the wonders of Zoom. And other apps like it.
A wonderful tool.
Yeah, along with quite a few others now who just come along. But yes, I completely agree. All right, so I think we're going to have you back, Chris. I think I love talking to you. I think that you have I think we just scratched the surface with your wisdom in terms of, even though you're talking specifically around trading, but the mindset and the things you're talking about are applicable across the board. And it doesn't matter if somebody wants to go in trading or property or have an online business, offline business, whatever they want to create. In order for them to create their life, they have to focus on the mindset first. And that's exactly what you've described so eloquently, so well here today. And I think everything you've touched on is exactly what I teach to my clients. So this is why it resonated, every word of yours resonated with me so much. And I wholeheartedly agree. So thank you so much, Chris. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you will come back and join us and be a guest for us again. And so thank you so much, Chris. And for those of you watching, thank you so much for joining us. I will be back on a Friday feature with another amazing guest talking through their inspiration journey, talking about mindset, how they changed their mindset to get to where they are. And so until the next time we meet, this is Gull Khan signing off. Take care and bye for now.